Welcome to a very special episode of Bucket List Coach Web Show Live and empowered with hugs for first responders. Couple more days, today and tomorrow. We're finished out National Police Week, but my personal opinion, National Police Week, National Police Day should be every day. So a little bit about the podcast, Bucket List Coach Web Show, started in 2017. So I'm interviewing people who are making the most of the dash. So we have the day that we're born, the day that we pass away. What are you doing in between that time? That is called your dash. So we're doing career bucket lists, restaurants. Everyone knows I love aviation, and of course, military. So today I have, I must say, one of my favorite people in the whole world. I've met him about 7 years ago, Deon Joseph. Thank you for coming on. Welcome to the studio.
I'm so happy to be here. Nice to finally connect. Sorry for the long wait. I've been busy, but I'm glad to be here.
Yes, you have. So let's talk about today is the tail end of National Police Week. Let's talk about your career bucket list. How did this all start?
Well, my career started in an unconventional way. When I was a young man, I hated police officers. I was like many young African Americans. I was indoctrinated to hate and fear law enforcement, and the rhetoric and plus a couple of negative contacts didn't help foster or nurture a great perception of police officers. So, as I became a young man, I actually was out of work. My family's restaurant crashed and construction business crashed. So I was out of work for 3 months. And, I had just met my beautiful girlfriend back then, and she was eventually going to be my wife. I wanted to be a good provider for her. So I was looking for jobs everywhere, and nobody would hire me, even though I never committed a crime. I had good credit, all this stuff. I was pretty responsible. And one of my friends and an uncle said, hey, this department is hiring right now. It's like, you should go sign up. And I was like, that department? Oh, heck no. That's the Rodney King department. They did all this. They're corrupt. They're dirty. All my friends will hate me. All the stuff I said.
Yeah.
And eventually I ended up joining because my uncle, who was a law enforcement officer for that department, said to me, he says, Deon, the department is what you make it. If you become corrupt, it's because you were corrupt long before you became a cop. If you become a brute, you were a brute long before you became a cop. And I know you, young man. You're an upstanding young man. You'll do fine. And when he said that, that made sense. So I finally joined the police department, and I discovered that 99% of everything that was told to me about law enforcement officers were 100%, which is completely false. It was just propaganda, and I fell for it. The only difference between me and the average African American in society is I see the other side of law enforcement. And I'm not saying that we're perfect. But what I am saying is that the vast majority of people that put on a badge and a gun, no matter what color they are, no matter what sex they are, no matter what gender they are, they really want to try to help. And that's what I discovered. So I ended up in Venice Beach first. In Venice Beach, we all know palm trees, beautiful women on Sunday afternoon, great eating spots. But I was on probation, so I couldn't stay. So I put in my wish list, and I picked downtown, I picked Southwest, and I think I picked down in the harbor, San Pedro. And my training officer says, hey, I heard you pick downtown. And I said, yes, sir. He says, oh my God, bro, why did you do that? I was like, what are you saying? He said, that's Skid Row. Oh, there's homeless everywhere. Everybody has HIV, AIDS, herpes, tuberculosis. You're going to stick your hand in somebody's pocket and get stuck with a needle, and there's no place to eat. So I was like, I'm a man of faith. So I went home and I said, God, please don't send me to this godforsaken place called Skid Row. I'm a germaphobe. I love to eat. and unfortunately, that was one of the few times the good Lord decided not to answer my prayers. I ended up getting Skid Row. And when I first, it was a really, really heartbreaking when I first came down there. I remember clearly driving and looking at the beautiful, picturesque LA skyline and going, man, that's not that bad. And then I get off on 6th Street and things are still pretty cool. I'm seeing people in business suits. And, when you get to some bad places in America, there's always like a 1.5 mile stretch of territory that kind of warns you first. It says, hey, you're getting ready to get to a bad spot. Get ready. Today, on this day, there was no warning at all. As soon as I crossed one street, it was like I tripped and fell into Mad Max, Thunderdome, Waterworld, any natural disaster. And everything my training officer said was true. I saw people having relations on the sidewalk, people using drugs in broad daylight. I saw.
So were you a boot? in that
Yeah,
location, or did you train somewhere else? And then after your boot
yes,
session, then you went.
yeah.
Okay,
I
you've been
finished
there the whole
probation.
time.
Yeah, I finished my probation and I ended up downtown. So,
Oh, okay.
uh, and it was just heartbreaking to see mentally ill people being
Oh wow.
released from the hospital, and most of the people looked just like me. That was the worst part about it. And I was like, oh God, I can't fix this. But after about a couple of months, I realized I was home because my parents kind of prepared me for it, the way they lived. And I fell in love with the people, and I never left, with the exception of 1 year to work with kids for 27 years.
Wow. So how what's the total time you've been in?
Total time on the job, almost 30 years.
Oh, God
We're in
bless your
year
heart.
29. Yeah, we're getting there. And it's 27 years inside of Skid Row. Yes, working with the homeless.
Well, I want to say that God does things for a reason because I met
Yes,
you
he
all
does.
those years ago. And shortly before I met you, I started this mission on Facebook called Hugs for First Responders. And because of you, a few of my EMT friends, and some other local police officers, and also the chief of police in Huntington Beach, I'm really inspired to turn this mission into a nonprofit. And
Wow. Sounds
I
wonderful.
can't thank you enough for just
Oh,
putting your story out there and being real. And it yeah, I can't even talk. I'm just so emotional about it for how you really inspired me to make a difference to police officers and all first responders and EMTs, emergency staff. It's just so important for me to be able to share my passion. Like I mentioned off camera before, I applied to be a police officer way in the 80s, and it
oh
just
wow.
wasn't a fit.
Hmm.
What I'm doing now is a fit, but just like what I do for military is to pay it forward to them. So although I never was in the Navy or Air Force, same thing. I never was a police officer, but I'm telling your story, and I'm telling everyone that comes on this podcast their love for their career, and
Yep.
it's very very important to me. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
So glad. I'm glad we were able to inspire you. Thank you for having a heart for law enforcement and the military. We appreciate you.
So did you spend any time in the military?
No, 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 I didn't. I wanted to, but my dad had other plans for me. He wanted me to run his business. So no, I didn't end up in the military.
So how do you celebrate, even with your colleagues or just people in your community or even your family, National Police Week? What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, it's so important because law enforcement officers, and I'm not talking about just me, I'm talking about in general, they don't get enough recognition for what they do. They're literally putting their finger in the dam, trying to keep it from breaking in the lives of people as it relates to crime. And oftentimes we have challenges in doing that from even our own political leaders, uh, advocates who are trying to drive a wedge or a chasm between police and their communities. And it's a never ending battle. And then sometimes, as a result of the rhetoric and the hate, many of our officers pay the ultimate price. Here
Mhm.
we are putting our life on the line for somebody who hates you and is willing to take your life. But the reality of our job and what makes police officers heroes to me is the real definition of a hero is not someone who just goes out and protects people who love them and revere them. That's cool. Thank you if you revere me. Thank you if you respect me. But the real definition of a hero is somebody who goes out and protects somebody who is literally has it in their heart to possibly take your life. And unfortunately, it has happened to many officers over the years. And so it's a time to reflect on the sacrifices made by blue collar men and women who chose to leave their families for a few hours a day to go protect and serve and didn't come home. That's what it means to me. And how I celebrate it is basically, even today we were at our bench press competition, and we all just stopped and just had a long moment of silence for officers who lost their lives across this country.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much me, just praying for my fellow officers every time I wake up in the morning, and thanking God for letting most of us come home. That's me. That's how I celebrate it.
Yeah, and then yesterday was it National Peace Officer Memorial Day. So
Mm-hmm.
we did a memorial for the police officer of Huntington Beach, a helicopter pilot who passed away a couple years ago. And I have a really good friend who is making three surfboards for the family of that officer. So just so important to acknowledge the men and women in blue and what they do. People have no idea,
Right.
but
They have no
literally
idea.
you wake up every morning and it's like you're not really working because you do what you love, right? Love what you do
Exactly.
what you love. Let's talk about how
Exactly.
important that is. When you wake up in the morning, how do you feel when you get out of bed? I mean, you thank good Lord for another day of life. How does that make you feel?
The first thing I do is the first. I don't say hi to my wife. I don't say hi to my kids. I talk to God, and I
Yes.
thank Him. I thank Him for waking me up. And
Yeah.
the second thing is I'm asking God to guide me and guide my fellow officers. And one of the things, the prayer is simple, and I hope feel free to use this. And if you're a law enforcement officer, firefighter, whatever,
Oh,
I always
definitely.
I always ask God to, where I'm weak, make me strong. Where I'm broken, heal me in times of distress. Where I would cower, please give me courage. And where I lack wisdom, please provide it when needed. And always protect me from my enemies, no matter what form they come in. Keep me from their daggers, traps, arrows, and snares. That is something I pray every day. It's so necessary, and I don't leave the house without it. And when I do, I just feel like, oh no, let me stop whatever I'm doing and go back and go in the bathroom, go find somewhere to pray this prayer. But that's what I do That's how I start my morning every day. And man, that has gotten me through 29 years of this crazy, wonderful job we call policing. Yes.
And I can't express enough to my audience when just like when you see a military person, when you see a first responder, please shake their hand, hug them, let them know that you're very grateful, because it's
Mhm.
at the end of the day that a lot of police officers aren't really told that they're appreciated. So
Mhm.
just make that your goal for the rest of your life, to make the time to appreciate a police officer. It's so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Saying thank you means so much. We don't do our jobs for thank you. I don't. There are weeks and months that I go by where I don't hear thank you. I gave the woman the Heimlich maneuver about 3 weeks ago. Didn't get a thank you, and that's fine. That's fine. But
Oh,
man, you got to recognize we are human, and sometimes we need to feel appreciated too. And that means a lot. It goes a long way, because the truth is, no matter how you feel about a law enforcement officer, I will put my life on the line for you. I will. Yep.
wow. So, do you have some stories that you're willing to share on the show today
Oh,
that
absolutely.
someone has inspired you out in the community and made you drive to want to do this even longer?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have so many stories. My first inspirations was tragedy, was seeing so much tragedy in Skid Row and seeing that the people of Skid Row wasn't getting justice. And I wanted to be a part, along with my fellow officers, of letting the world know that Skid Row, the people of Skid Row, are just as important as anybody else in the city. And working to do that, we really did a good job of building community. But what I love are the inspirational stories that I see from the people themselves. One of the most inspiring stories I ever witnessed was I was known for helping getting homeless people housing. Okay,
Oh
there's a
my Lord!
stere-
Wow.
there's a stereotype about the people of Skid Row that they don't care about each other, and that's not true. There was a parolee who had just came to Skid Row, released from prison, and he's sitting on a sidewalk, and he hated my guts. He heard I was a monster, I was a bad guy, and for
Mhm.
2 weeks he stared at me like he wanted me to die. So after about the second week, I'm walking down the street and I see him. He's crying. He's sitting on the sidewalk crying. I say, "Hey, boss, there is no sitting on the sidewalk here, but look, you need somebody to talk to. What's going on?" He said, "Officer, I need housing. I need housing, or I'm gonna die out here." So I made a phone call to a friend of mine in Skid Row, and I called her. I said, "Can you give this guy housing?" And she checked, and she had one room available for this man. So I
Oh,
said, "Hey, good news, brother. You got housing today. All you got to do is get up, walk across the street, meet my friend Denise in your house." And as I was telling him this, a 78-year-old man walked up behind me and tapped my boot with his cane. He says, "Young man, I heard you're helping get people housing. Can you help me? I can't survive in these streets." And I said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I just gave the last one to this guy." And the parolee grabs me by the shoulder and says, "Officer, no, give him my spot." And he
oh,
walked the
that's
old man over to the place, and that old man got housed before him. And I see stories like that all the time. Like my friend Mimi, a wonderful young lady, she was a sex worker, she was a drug addict, but just because she was a sex worker and a drug addict doesn't mean she wasn't loved by God. God loved her too, and she hated the crime that was happening. And one day she helped me save a man who was being kidnapped in a tent.
what? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. There was 40 people around. Nobody said anything, and I was parked right next to the tent where a man was being held at knife point. As I drove away, my friend Mimi comes and says, "Officer Joseph." She was skinny. Clearly, she was emaciated. She was using, but she didn't care. She said, "Joseph, you were parked right next to the tent." I backed up and I opened the tent, and sure enough, she, not me, saved the man's life. And the tragedy of what she did of that was 6 months later, someone strangulated her to death while she slept on the sidewalk and with a belt.
Oh,
And this was my hero. Somebody killed my hero. And
mm,
that inspired me to try to continue to make change, to not let people die on the sidewalk in ways that the average person would look at it and go, oh, that officer's being mean. But no, I was trying to save people's lives by not allowing them to sleep on the sidewalk and pitch tents on the sidewalk, because that's what was happening to them. They were dying, they were being raped, they were being trafficked. And those two individuals inspired me. And that was just a blessing. I think God let me see that on purpose to teach me a lesson that there are wonderful people on Skid Row. They just need an environment conducive to change.
so how do you inspire? Do you have any boots right now?
Probationers, no, I haven't trained a probationer in 20 years. But
Oh, really? Wow.
but the funny thing is, a lot of young guys who came on the job, they tell me when they get to Central, or hey, you are the reason why I signed up to be a police officer. My son, he's in the police academy right now, and he said
Oh, that's so amazing. I'm so happy about that.
his classmates say, hey, your dad is the reason why I joined the force. So although I may not be training him, they're watching me, they're Googling me, they're YouTubing me, and they're going, oh my God, I want to be like this guy. And that's such a blessing, to hear that. So yeah. So I'm inspiring others, and hopefully they'll inspire others when I'm long gone. Yeah.
Wow. So what's the next step for you?
Well, I got 3 years left. I'm still hoping not to leave Skid Row in the same place that I found it. It's going to be a challenge. Like I said, we have a lot riding against us, but I don't want to give up. I know people aren't really pro crime control right now, but like I said, the pendulum's starting to swing. And as the pendulum swings, I feel like they're untying my hands a little bit more, where I could really work to create a better environment for the people, separate the wolves from the sheep, so that the people who are trying to benefit from the 108 programs there can actually benefit from them, and get back on their feet, reunite with their families, graduate from these drug programs. So I'm seeing a little bit of hope right now. I'm seeing service providers finally saying, you know what, that whole period, that anti-police stuff we did was wrong. It's time for us to work with the police again. And now we're working together again, slowly but surely. So that's giving me hope that by the time my 3 years is up, I can finally leave Skid Row behind and now focus on things that, like public speaking, that I do on the side. I love speaking at conventions, churches, whatever, business entities. I love trying to inspire them. Finishing part 2 of my book. This is part 1 that I wrote in
Oh, the
2018.
edition one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did volume 1, but I want to finish telling the story about Skid Row, how politics can get in the way of actually helping people. That's volume 2, but I have to wait to retire to do that. I don't want to make anybody mad.
Yeah.
but
So let's talk
yeah.
about mental health awareness and how important that is for us to tap in. What do you believe is the best way to tap into a more abundance lifestyle for our and work on our mental health? I actually have a parent who has Lewy body dementia, and that's been
Mhm.
a really big struggle for me.
Mhm.
But for my mental health, I meditate. I live 20 minutes from the beach. I go out on the paddleboard or whatever I can to experience. And I'm not really a good swimmer, but I'm getting back into paddleboarding, to kind of help with my core and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
also going to the gym. I mean, that's going to really help with your mental health. What do you like to suggest for that?
Well, for me, it's if you're passionate about your job, it can take over your life, and that's a mistake. My blue family is wonderful. I love every law enforcement officer, but the most important thing in your life is your family, your real family. Those
Hmm.
are the people, and I was ignoring them for a long time, not on purpose. They realized I had a passion and supported me. But one day my wife sits me down and says, "Deon, I love you. I think you're doing incredible work, but sometimes it feels like you give Skid Row 120%, but you only give us 60%." And when she said that, it broke my heart. And I promised from that point forward to focus on them. When I started focusing on my family, coaching my sons in Little League, spending more time with my wife, going for a run, having my wife kidnap me and just take me from place to place just to clear my head. Those are things that I did. It's basically wellness. You have to separate your professional life from your personal life, or it's going to destroy you. I'll give you an example of how that's almost destroyed me. High blood pressure, constant headaches, stress, insomnia. These are things that can actually kill you if you don't take some time to what I call empty your cup, and
That.
yeah, empty your cup and leave room for the good things in life. And
Mhm.
those are the ways that I kind of help with my wellness and mental health. And it's so important, especially if you're a first responder. Your family is very important. Tap into them, give them all the love in the world, give them all the hugs, and spend time with them. And that will help fill you up in the best of ways. Yes.
Definitely, and go with doing your own thing also. It's, like your wife, she can go do like a me time with a couple of her girlfriends. And
Hmm.
then, like you could have a day, she could have a day. And it's important to step away. I mean, because for me, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm writing a couple books, I have an extremely busy travel agency, but I still make 1 or 2 days for the people in
Hmm.
my life. And I make one day for myself because I,
Yep.
'cause I really, really have to.
One of
Maybe
the
read a
favorite
good book, take a bath, whatever you want to do, have a glass of wine, but
one of my
just
favorite things to do is I get in the car and I'll drive to Vegas by myself. Like
oh,
it's
it's up
something
5 hours. It used to be 3.5. Now it's 5 or 6.
now it's like 5 or 6. I don't know what happened, but I would
Yeah.
get in a car once a year and just drive. And it was something about the open road, and it's just me and my neo soul music, and it brings me down and all I need is one day,
Why not
because I
San
don't.
Diego?
San Diego's beautiful. I've been to the
We got the
grasslands and all that.
beach. You got, really nice. I don't know if you're into aviation, but we got the
Hmm.
Midway Museum there. I really like the old planes, and I'm a big fan of F-14 Tomcat and all the Navy and Air Force planes, and so that really is what drives me. I'm going to be 60 this year, and I have so
Oh
many
wow.
different gatherings I'm doing,
Hmm.
and the first week of August, I'm going to head over to San Diego and
Hmm.
just experience the beach and go to the Midway and look at the planes and just some things that we love, and that's what
Yeah.
we should be experiencing. Like, for instance, National Dolphin Day is every April 24th. So every
Oh.
year in Newport Beach, I head out with a couple friends, and it's not just me, and it's not about business at all. I meet some friends on Facebook, like, hey, what are you doing on the 14th? Oh, nothing. Do you like dolphins? Yeah. Okay, let's go meet. We actually did that this year, a month before, because I was
Mhm.
out of town on actual National Dolphin Day. So I've been doing that for 5 years. So that's a really good practice, is to get off your devices and go and create experiences together. It's
And
really super important.
I
It really
love
helps your mental
animals.
health because you're not thinking about business. You're just thinking about creating some fun together.
I would love to see that because I love animals. I'm really an animal lover. So yeah, that sounds like a plan. I might have to go to San Diego and do that.
Yeah, San Diego, Newport, we got Dana Point, different, and then using different holidays, like for instance, National Wine Day, I believe it's the 25th of this month. If you can create an experience with your family or your friends and use the National Day calendar as a way to experience. And we have, I believe it's the first week in January is Leads Law
Mm.
Enforcement Appreciation Day. So that's I think the very first or second week of January, right?
Oh
For
wow.
police
Okay.
officers. Yeah, and then we have sometime in August is First Responders Day. So a lot of the first responders that I know, I'll send a nice little gift in the mail just to make a difference. You just don't know what people are dealing with, or making a phone call and letting people know that you love and appreciate them. And it's not about business or anything else, but just
Absolutely.
because you may be having a bad day and then you get a phone call from me. I think you've gotten a couple phone calls from me over the years, like happy
Uh-huh.
birthday and stuff like that. So,
Yes.
what do you do to make a difference to others?
What I try to do is the biggest thing in making change in people's lives, I find, is environment. So the biggest thing I try to do is in Skid Row and even in my personal life is try to create an environment that's conducive to change, so that the other true heroes, like the service providers, can have more of a positive influence on the people than the criminal element. And that seems to work. I've seen that save so many people's lives rather than doing it in reverse, the harm reduction model. Oh, we'll just let you do whatever you want and have the resources available. But what good are the resources if the drug dealer is on not only outside the program, but sometimes slipping inside the program? So,
Mhm.
so my thing is a whole holistic environmental approach to crime fighting. If the area is clean and safe, people will benefit from the program. So that's my primary function, is to try to create environments where people can really start to thrive and take their lives back.
Wow. Well, let's talk about health and wellness because that's super important. And let's talk about how we can have a schedule to where we can work out, we can eat healthy. How important is that to you? I know as a police officer, that's super important that you have to be
Mhm.
in good shape and, you have to exercise and, of course, have 64 ounces of water every single day. But what
Oh
is
yeah.
your best advice? Because that's really good advice to keep your mental health in check, is to work on yourself.
Your best advice is people don't understand that physical health and mental health, they are together. You can't separate it. When I'm out of shape, I don't function well mentally. So 4 days a week, I'm doing cardio. When I'm saying cardio, look, I know you're thinking running 20 miles, but that's not what I do. I'm 52 years old. I'm not that guy anymore. But if it's just cardio hit training, 30 minutes of that 4 days a week, hey, get on the treadmill. You don't have to run hard. Put on a 4.5 miles and just do that slow jog for 30 to 45 minutes. And you will find yourself feeling better throughout the day and get yourself some sleep. That's the thing. That was my number one mistake. I never slept because my
How many
mind is
hours do you
constant.
sleep? What are your hours that you sleep now?
Well, in the bad old days, it was 4 hours, and then I was up ready to go do something. Uh, Now I do everything in my power to get at least 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep. Everything in my power to do that, and I find when I do that, my stress level comes down, blood pressure goes down, and basically spending time with your family. That's
Yeah,
it.
I go to bed around 10:30, 11, and I'm up between like 6:30. So
Yeah, yeah. There was this automatic alarm clock because I worked when you work graveyard shifts. It just
oh
wakes you
god,
up,
that
and
is the worst. I remember
it's
working
it's the
graveyard.
worst.
Oof, oof.
you know. And then
You're a
also your
zombie all the
mind.
time, no matter what. Yeah, you could hear lawnmowers going on. There's like some kind of chaos going outside the window. Yeah.
And then my mind was always racing, trying to figure, oh, what can I do to make Skid Row better here, there, there. And it was really, I took my job seriously, and it's so seriously where I couldn't sleep at night. So get yourself some sleep and eat right. Like, man, I have changed my diet. I've cut out fried foods. I've cut out.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I only eat meat like maybe twice a week, and it's really been beneficial to me. So those are some things you can do. And now my thoughts are so clear. It's so
Mhm.
wonderful. I feel great on the inside out, and yeah, and people notice it too.
And I'm working on that as well because I'm going through testing right now to be a donor of one of my kidneys
Oh,
for
oh,
a good friend here in Huntington Beach that is a big servant leader of our community, and it's a lot. And if you want to be a kidney donor and you have a heart for it, it's really a great thing to do for someone that you care about.
that's
But it
awesome.
is a lot of work, and for me, it's worth it because it's my goal to make a difference to somebody's life. So it's that I've been doing that for the last couple months, and they said it would probably take about 4 months. So I
Hmm.
got some more testing and stuff. Next week, we have a nurse coming to the house who's going to be giving me some more blood work. But it's just go out there in your community and be a servant leader. So the question that I always ask at the end: what is the one thing that you will do this week to make a difference to a complete stranger?
Hmm. Well, it seems like every day I go out, whether I want to or not, I end up doing it. But here's the one thing I'm going to do next week. There are 3 mentally ill women who are in
Oh,
the streets of Skid Row,
hmm,
and horrible things happen to them. And I'm going to work my butt off to connect with service providers and get them off the street. So there are 3 women. Keep me in your prayers. I've been trying to help these women for
definitely.
a couple of years, and that is my goal. I'm hell bent on getting these 3 women off the streets before something happens to them or before they do something to somebody else. So that's going to be my mission next week.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that. I let's see, what do I want to do? Yeah, so I'm going to say someone that I see here in the next couple days. I'm going to look for a nice upcoming like foodie holiday, and I'm going to treat them to a meal. That's what I want to do. All right,
That's
let's
awesome.
get to the call to action. Your book. Let's talk.
Okay. Well, I wrote a book in 2018 called A Skid Row Cop's Story. Stepping Across the Line, A Skid Row Cop Story. And because of the negative rhetoric about police officers and like we're robots who have no soul, no emotions, that's not true. So I wanted to create a book that showed my journey joining the police force and discovering the incredible men and women and the mentors I met along the way who shaped me, and my introduction in the Skid Row, where I found my calling in helping the homeless. But you'll find that that calling was easy to ease into because my parents raised 41 foster children in their 47-year marriage.
Oh, God
Uh,
bless their heart. How
yep,
amazing. Wow. That's
they
where you get
they
your servant leadership from.
Yep, they fed the homeless religiously and in a responsible way for 10 years before my mom passed. And then my dad would hire men who were ex convicts and give them a second chance, not a hand out, but he gave them a hand up. And he never called them his employees, he always called them his friends. So you'll never see me call people Skid Row hobos, bums, or anything else like that, or transients. I will always call them my friends, even if they're spitting at me or cursing me out.
Oh,
but
wow.
but that's it shows my journey into meeting the people and falling in love with them and wanting to be a champion for them. And that's volume one in a nutshell. I want people to see the reality of Skid Row. There's no politics involved. It's not left or right. It's what this man saw through his eyes, what Skid Row looked like, and where the failures are. So that's what the book is about. And people, when they get it, they read it, they love it, and you can get it on my website at deonjoseph1.org. You can order it there, or I think it's still on Kindle. But yeah, it's the great. Here's a cool story about the book.
Wow.
Some Spanish officers in Spain, they saw a video of me, and they found out about the book, and they ordered the book. And as a result, one of their sergeants flew from Spain
Wow.
to meet with me to see if I was the real deal. We went for a tour of Skid Row, and she couldn't believe that everything I said was true. She said it was the most realistic book. There's no politics. I'm not trying to guide you to a thought. I'm just sharing the truth and letting you figure out on your own what's going on in Skid Row. And man, that was one of the biggest blessings. Yeah.
I'm actually trying to post on a couple pages. Can I put you to screen only, just you? And I'm going to share this on a couple pages right now.
Sure,
And
sure,
you can
absolutely.
kind of tell more about the book. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and talk more about the book. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's just the first 10 years of my career, starting off at Venice Beach and then ending up in Skid Row, and where I discovered that there was four kinds of people in Skid Row, like anywhere else in the United States of America. The first group are good people. There are good people in Skid Row that you don't get to hear about, but that's the majority of people. There are good people who do bad things. That's your drug addict. When they're clean and sober, you find out they're wonderful human beings. But when they're binging on crack cocaine or methamphetamines, yes, the person you may see hugging me in the video may go around the corner and rob somebody. And then you have the person who made mistakes. He's the career criminal who made mistakes, but they have redemptive qualities. And then lastly, you have, for lack of a better term, very evil human beings who descend upon Skid Row and prey on them. Now, the difference between Skid Row and everywhere else is because it's so concentrated, there tends to be a constant and frequent cross contamination of all four groups. And what it looks like is this: the good people have to look the other way so they don't become victims of crime. The good people who do bad things, the drug addicts, they stay on the bad side longer because the temptation is too great to fail. For the criminals who have redemptive qualities, they always recidivize because they're broke and they see drug dealers making money, so they decide to join them. And then lastly, the evil people, and I'm talking about career criminals and drug addicts, and unfortunately advocates who prey on the community, pull all the strings and try to make me look like the bad guy for trying to save these people by any legal means necessary. And that's really the top four, the dynamic of Skid Row, and the real challenge of trying to help the people get their lives straight.
And one thing I really would love for you to be a part of is when I get Hugs for First Responders as a nonprofit, I would like you to be on one of the keynotes for that. That would really mean a lot
Absolutely.
to me. Yeah, so let's talk
Absolutely.
about some keynotes. So what are some of the events that you're looking to get hired for?
Well, a lot of times I love speaking to churches. I love speaking at convocations.
Mhm.
I love speaking at with advocacy groups whenever they have conventions. I've spoken all over the country in Virginia. I've spoken in Oklahoma, New York City. I've been everywhere. So wherever there's a need for inspiration and education about homelessness, I'm the guy you call. And I do a pretty good job of not only painting a picture of the reality minus politics, but also providing solutions based on what I see. Based on what I see, like mental health, mental illness. That's a huge problem we face in California, and I'm sure you see it in San Diego all the time. Unfortunately, the answer to mental illness in the 1970s was to close down all the mental health hospitals and kick the people out into the streets in the name of civil liberties, right? What happens to these individuals? Some of them fall into the loving arms of family who try their best to love them back to health. But many of them end up in places like Skid Row where they stop taking their prescribed medication and they sell it or give it away and then start self-medicating on Schedule 1 narcotics that exacerbates their mental health crisis
Yeah.
100-fold. I'll ask you, is it a crime to be paranoid schizophrenic? No. Is it a crime to be bipolar? No. You're listening to a police officer tell you this. But when those things meet crack cocaine, yes, even marijuana, methamphetamines, fentanyl, which is killing a lot of my friends, it's breaking my heart. It exacerbates their conditions. And that's when they become a police problem. That's when they become uncontrollable, dangerous, a danger to themselves, a danger to other, and then end up gravely disabled, where we have to intervene as law enforcement. And that's what the public needs to understand. But there is a solution. And based on my 27 years, is we have to look at the putting them on a longer hold than 72 hours. It should be 6 weeks. If you care, it should be 6 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why is, A, you got to detox them, because most of them are dual diagnosed. They're drug addicts and mentally ill. So you got to get that stuff out of their system. Then you have to realize that it takes sometimes 4 to 6 weeks for their prescribed medication, for them to even benefit from the therapeutic attributes of it. That takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So you can't release them too soon where they're not stabilized. And then lastly, you have to develop a rapport and streamline the process of conservatorships, so their
Wow.
loved ones who's been looking for them for years can actually help them get control of their lives and support them. If we do those three things, we can probably cut about 1/3 of homelessness in Southern California or wherever. And I know that would work. I don't think that would work. I know it will work. But right now, currently, it's 72 hours. We sprinkle pills on them and then kick them back out in the streets, and it does nothing to help anybody.
And there
Yeah.
actually was someone that I dated in Northern California, and I just found out a couple years ago he passed away. He was addicted to Norco, but a lot of
Mm,
people don't realize that a lot of people just go in. Sorry, getting a little choked up. They go in for a simple surgery, and then like I've had surgeries where I had to take that, to kind of help me go through the pain. But
mm.
just be really patient and see if you can get somebody help, because a lot of people excuse me, that just go in for simple surgery can become an addict. So it's the whole broad area. But just be patient and be there for them and walk them through that. How do you feel about that? Do you know people have been through the same situation? They just had a simple surgery and they ended
Absolutely.
up, yeah.
If people are drug addicts for different reasons. Many people who use drugs didn't start off as bad people who just said, "Hey, I'm going to destroy my life and just use drugs just for the fun of it." It didn't work like that. It could have been trauma. Some people end up using drugs because of trauma to self-medicate and kind of escape. Other people, due to medical procedures, people struggle with pain, but they have to take pain pills and they become addicted to it.
Hmm.
Others, for emotional pain. There's many different reasons why people, and it's no excuse, but it is a valid reason why some of these people do it. And we have to be more understanding, but not understanding to the point where we take a hands-off approach and say, "Oh, you'll get better. Do what you want to do." No, there has to be some accountability.
Yes, alcoholism is another one too. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
alcoholism. If,
Hmm.
if, if, if there's no accountability, if there's no mandatory treatment or no mandatory probation or treatment post judicial process, then these people are going to continue. And I know people don't want to hear that nowadays because, oh, we're criminalizing people for using drugs. No, I've seen when we were able to uh, arrest them, get them into mandatory treatment. I've seen that work better than what's happening right now. The hands-off approach that is failing. The harm reduction approach is not working right now.
And
Yeah.
the personal development is good too. I've actually helped a couple of my coaching clients who've had, similar situations, and I've actually coached them through working on themselves. And the I
Mm-hmm.
am statements actually comes from the Bible. So if you tell
Mm-hmm.
yourself, I am this, I am that, like say like something you want for your future, although you
Mm-hmm.
don't have it right then and there, you
Mm-hmm.
actually become that because you train your subconscious mind. So let's talk about that and then we will close out.
Okay. Okay. Well, absolutely. I believe in that. It's called faith for me. It's called faith. It's having faith in things that are unseen. You just believe it's going to happen, and if you keep believing and also working towards that, faith is not just sitting on your butt and waiting for it to happen for you. Okay, faith is believing it's going to happen, but it's also taking those steps. If you believe that, if you believe in that strongly, yes, you can achieve anything. You can achieve anything. But you got to take those steps. You got to really want it. It's like marriage. My marriage, for example, I had faith that I would get married to a wonderful woman when I was a kid. That was when I was 13 years old. I wanted
Mhm.
that. But as I became a young man, I wasn't living a life that was conducive to that, you know. And I always say, God is not going to give you something that you're going to mess over. I wasn't ready for that. But when I decided to hunker down and take those steps to be ready, I stopped dating all these women, and I started getting to my word, and started, preparing myself to be the husband. That's when the good Lord sent me my beautiful wife,
Yeah.
Tasha Joseph, and I've been happily
You
married.
affirmed what you want, and therefore you received it.
Yep, and I walked towards it. I don't just sit there hoping it falls into my lap. I prepare myself for it, and
Mhm.
that's how that works. Yes.
Well, very good. So thank you for watching, everyone. Today with Hugs for First Responders and Bucket List Coach web show live. Go out and live your dream. If you want to become a police officer, make sure that you make that dream come true, because you want to change lives, or even if you want to be a first responder. And stay tuned for Hugs for First Responders coming into a nonprofit life. It's going to be really amazing. We actually are planning a cruise in 2 years to benefit local police officers and EMTs here in Orange County and LA County. So definitely stay tuned for that. Go ahead and do your shout out, and we'll close out.
Well, I
Website.
want to say shout out to my family and friends, but wife, I love you, and kids, thank you for your support, and thank you for having me on your show. If you want me to come speak at any event, you can go to deonjoseph1.org. That's my website, or send me an email at info@deonjoseph1.org, and I'd be glad to come out and share an inspiring message to anybody willing to listen. Once again, if you want my book called Stepping Across the Line, Volume 1, A Skid Row Cop Story, you can go to the website, deonjoseph1.org. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and you can see me and talk to me live there. So I'll be looking forward to talking to you and engaging.
And if you know somebody in law enforcement who is going through a really tough time, Hugs for First Responders, we have various workshops and personal development to help those in law enforcement and EMTs, because they do deal with things on a daily basis. So make sure you check out Hugs for First Responders on Facebook, and we'll see you here on the other side. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks for having me on.
I'll be right back.